are about to become the biggest brand in racing. Movie deals, infomercials, product endorsements. Ka-chow! You think you're famous now? We'll be rich beyond belief.
Hello, and welcome to Film Rant. Guys, Cars 3 is out. You know Cars, right? The Pixar franchise with the talking cars? No? Come on, Lightning McQueen, the Goofy car, Hudson. No? Oh well, does anybody want to come and see it with me? Any takers? Guys? Anybody there? Oh, this movie isn't going to get any love. And it really hasn't. Cars 3 is probably the biggest Pixar release I've seen fly under the radar ever. Nobody is talking about this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the first review of it on YouTube. Oh no, wait, that's ridiculous. I'm a drowning channel in an oversaturated market, remember? But seriously, this movie is just a complete dud in terms of buzz and hype, which I think is a tragic shame. I loved Cars 1, and believe it or not, I didn't mind Cars 2, or Disney's Planes or Planes 2. They're all perfectly fun movies in my opinion. It seems everyone and their dog hates Cars 2, and I just don't get why. I mean, I understand the hate against Planes as it was nothing but a cash-in, but I still enjoyed all these movies nonetheless. So here we go. I'm going to review Cars 3. Although it kind of feels like I'm talking to a room of about 10 people here, so shout out in the comments if you bother to turn up to this. I really am pissing in the wind when it comes to talking about this movie. Oh, and I'll go into spoiler territory too, so overtake your way into the cinema and watch Cars 3 if you're worried about spoilers. It's a Pixar movie, for Christ's sake, go and watch it. As usual, I'll start my review by talking about the characters. Now, I'm not going to say anything about Lightning McQueen as he's pretty much the same guy we've always seen, but I do have to ask. Did Owen Wilson get paid per wow on this one? He says it a lot more than the average person would say wow in any given situation, so much so that it actually stood out to me. I mean, we all know Owen Wilson loves a good wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
But Christ, it's like it's a safe word or something. Maybe it is. Who knows? One new character we're introduced to is Cruz, voiced by Cristela Alonso. Cruz was a very fun character, I thought. I enjoyed her unintentionally savage one-liners and she seemed like a little sweetheart. She has a nice scene around the halfway mark where she talks about her past and how she always wanted to be a racer but failed to achieve her dreams. I really enjoyed that little bit of character building, but her reason for not racing sucked. She felt like she didn't belong. Really? I mean, I wasn't sure if they were going for some kind of gender discrimination vibe there or not, but I'd say they weren't because there's a female car later in the movie who's a veteran, so surely the gender issue wouldn't be a problem for Cruz. Or maybe I'm just being naive to think that. Anyway, I thought Cristela did a wonderful job in her performance and I found Cruz to be a thoroughly enjoyable character. There are a few other characters introduced: Sterling, a wealthy billionaire who sponsors McQueen, Smokey, Doc Hudson's previous trainer, and Jackson Storm, the new hotshot who is the main villain of the piece. There is absolutely nothing to say about any of these characters because they're barely in it, which is a real shame. I feel each of these characters could have a lot more to give, but the movie really focuses on McQueen and Cruz, which is fine, but I feel these characters were really wasted, Jackson Storm especially. To be fair, he isn't the real villain, he's just a personified version of it. Age. Jackson is the new, younger model who can absolutely destroy McQueen in any race they take part in. He's the catalyst that forces McQueen to accept he's done. Pixar movies always use symbolism to get their ideas across because it's easier for kids to grasp onto, and Storm is just a symbol of age. Still, I would have liked to have seen more of him as a character instead of just being an idea. Coming off that, I'll get on to the script. Cars 3 is ultimately a movie about failure. It's about a character having his heyday and learning to move on because they're too old to do it now. Not the first movie to come out this year about that. There's something poetic about the fact that the movie is about struggling to keep up, quite literally. As a concept, I thought that was a great way to end McQueen's film franchise. I mean, I'm guessing they aren't making a Cars 4, right? I know Cars 3 was meant to mark a refresh in Pixar, but face it guys, this franchise is dead. Let McQueen rest. The first teaser trailer didn't hold back about this core concept either, showing McQueen get fucking obliterated. I like that the movie never made McQueen come out on top either. He was old, he refused to believe he was old, but he still lost every event he took part in. I mean, he does well on the Destruction Derby but loses, he struggles to beat Cruz a lot of the time, and he just flat out gives up on the last race. It would have been easy for Pixar to make this movie where McQueen overcomes his age and still manages to win, but I like that they kind of kill him off. I get that they kind of needed to do that if this movie was going to serve as a refresh, but I still appreciate what they did. I like how he refuses to adapt. Jackson Storm just outclasses him in every department. Pixar completely tear down the Lightning McQueen character, and I think it took balls for them to do that. Cars 3 gets a little predictable from a point. I was looking forward to seeing where they take the story, but as soon as we see McQueen look at some old photos of Hudson training him, it was easy to see where it was going. You kind of get the initial idea when we learn of Cruise's past, but it's confirmed by this point in the movie. After that, there really isn't any surprises except for the climactic scene, but even then it's only a half surprise. I wasn't really sure what to make of that actually. I was kind of happy that McQueen became the trainer and Cruise finally got the race, but I didn't like how it was done. It just felt a bit cheap for him to be able to bow out of the race and enter her in his place. I get that it's a kids movie and happy endings are needed, but I would have loved it if McQueen did everything he could to beat Jackson Storm but still got beat himself. It's that crushing defeat that leads him into coaching. He had one chance to get back into the game, but the fact he's too old gets solidified in that moment. That could push him into training Cruise to exact revenge or something like that. At the very least, they could have had Cruise lose against Storm. Yeah, she's good, but Storm just seems so much more powerful, so it felt a bit crap to have her just come into the race and beat him first time. Maybe I'm just being too depressing, but I just thought the final act could have done with something a little more hard-hitting or meaningful. In fact, I would have changed the story entirely. I would have liked to have seen Jackson Storm have a much bigger role in the movie. Maybe have him be a dick about Queen to the cameras and stuff like that, but they never actually meet on or off the track for a good while. Storm is far too quick for him to catch on track, and off track he's always surrounded by agents and media and often whisked away in the back of a truck. It would be cool if we build up this massive feud between McQueen and Storm, and when they do finally meet, Storm is actually a massive fan of McQueen and everything he does is for the cameras because the companies in charge of him tell him to act that way. Kind of like the whole facade right now with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. You just know them two are mates really. You could run with a storyline based around the fact that a lot of people's idols are manufactured by the companies that own them, especially sporting idols. That would have been a cool route to go down. You could also have Storm teach McQueen that it's okay to be old. It happens to everyone. Make it a story about evolving. I mean, the movie seems to do this pretty well anyway, but I would have liked it if Storm was a false villain. Maybe McQueen could have become a coach for Storm and trained him to be the best there ever was, making him smash all of McQueen's old records. I think Cars 3 is a perfectly fine story and it hits most of the things I've mentioned, but I just feel like there could have been a little more thought behind it. I know Pixar are capable of better, and Cars 3 ends up just feeling a little bit half-arsed. And that's the general consensus for the movie. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but something about it just feels a little off. It feels like this is a movie the guys at Pixar had a really good idea for about 10 years ago, but since the failure of Cars 2 and both Planes movies, the enthusiasm for it has just ran out. It feels a little like they pushed it out the door because they had to. Now, it wasn't going to be a complete train wreck that was dripping with plot holes, substandard production and lazy visual effects. Pixar are too classy for that, but you just get the vibe that there wasn't much love poured into this. The story is okay, the characters are underdeveloped and the jokes aren't really big hitters. I mean, there's a few chuckles here and there, but the comedy is way off the mark for a Pixar movie. It didn't even make me tear up. That's Cars 3's biggest failure. Pixar movies are meant to make me cry like a little bitch, but this one didn't even come close, and that's a sign it's half-arsed if there ever was one. That said, I do like its take on sports stars and branding. Sterling offers McQueen a life of branding if he retires, so he'll become an icon to be used on mud flaps, spoilers and paint jobs and so on, basically the car equivalent of clothing, cologne and footwear and stuff like that. Pixar seems to make it clear that if McQueen did this, it would reflect incredibly badly on him. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty much sure Smokey says something along the lines of, if you become a brand, then you didn't love racing at all. That isn't word for word, but I'm pretty sure that's the general vibe. I think that's a very interesting take on sports stars. If they make a brand of themselves, did they really love the sport at all? Cristiano Ronaldo comes to mind. He's one of my favourite sports stars and he's gone on record many times stating that he's not interested in coaching after his football career is up. He wants to focus on his fashion line and other brand orientated things. Now, can you say that Ronaldo, one of, if not the greatest footballer in the world, doesn't really care about football? You'd think not, but I think it's possible. I mean, he cares about winning, but winning furthers his own personal gain and his legacy. Perhaps football is just one thing he's incredibly good at, and it's the one thing that's made him incredibly rich and famous. Maybe he feels no allegiance to it. Maybe his passion is fashion. Who knows? I don't know the guy, but all I'm saying is it's not completely out the realms of possibility that he doesn't really feel any passion for football as a job. I mean, I could be the best film reviewer in the world, doesn't mean I necessarily have to enjoy doing it. I realise I've gone a bit off track here, but I was just pointing out that I found Cars 3's almost judgmental stance on sports stars branding themselves very interesting to say the least. I mentioned earlier that the first teaser trailer for the movie shows McQueen getting utterly destroyed in a horrendous car crash. That does happen in the movie, and it happens just as he realises he can't beat Jackson Storm. He realises he's too old, then sustains horrific injuries. It's very disappointing that Pixar didn't linger on this point for too long. He crashes and is fixed and out again within about 7 minutes on screen. I would have liked to have seen a segment where his engine doesn't work or he's leaking oil constantly, something that makes him look broken. It would have been sad to see him in such a broken state like that while Jackson Storm is on TV tearing it up. I just feel like seeing Lightning McQueen completely defeated would have been a powerful and humbling image. Instead, Pixar just glance over it in order to move the plot along, which I feel was a poor decision. Again, half-assed. One thing that definitely wasn't half-assed though was the visuals. With each and every Pixar movie I feel more and more impressed with the visuals. They managed to find this wonderful balance of lifelike and cartoonish. The images they create are truly amazing, and I can't even begin to imagine what they'll be making in 10 years time. This is without doubt the best looking Pixar movie yet. So overall, Cars 3 is an enjoyable, simple, if half-assed conclusion to the Cars franchise. At least I hope it's a conclusion. Cruz is a perfectly fine and fun character that could carry the franchise going forward, but I would rather they just ended it on the send-off for Lightning McQueen. The side characters are all left on the hard shoulder and Jackson Storm is criminally underused. The movie becomes predictable from a point, and the final act is a little bit of a cop-out with McQueen swapping places with Cruz. I did like its potentially judgmental message about sports stars becoming brands, but it's a shame that's the only real commentary this movie makes. The movie is all about failure, and it never fails to let you forget that McQueen is aging and failing, even if it does skimp out on a segment where he's broken, and I think it was a good move for Pixar to retire McQueen to either end the franchise or start something new. Cars 3 isn't Pixar's best, in fact it's far, far from it, but there's nothing in the movie that is offensively bad or boring. You'll have a fun time watching it, and I honestly encourage you to see it. It's a nice, easy ride, and I'd be sad if the Cars franchise didn't get a good send-off from fans, because it gave its fans exactly that. Cars 3 gets 3 frames out of 5. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Film Rant.
You are not winning this!
I'm coming for you, Storm.